Step into the light where the wild ones roam, where the heart speaks loud, calling this place home. We break the rules, we paint the sky, ridiculously you, we were born to fly. Ooh, it's ridiculously you.
Hey, everyone, it is Julie May with the Ridiculously You podcast. For everyone who is out there that's been interested in things like real estate or doing some Airbnbs, today's guest is not your average real estate bro. In fact, if you've ever muttered the words landlords are the freaking worst, he might be the exception you didn't know you were looking for. Shayne McKinney is a wildly successful real estate investor and viral TikTok creator with nearly 500,000 followers. He teaches people how to build wealth through Airbnb without becoming a blood-sucking landlord, which I love. Unless, of course, you count his vampire alter ego. Maybe that part's blood-sucking. We're not sure. Shayne doesn't just renovate properties. He builds trust, connection, identity, and he is ridiculously himself, which is one of the reasons we wanted to have him on because, you know, Shayne, one of the things that we have noticed, and my boyfriend's a big fan of yours, I watch your stuff all of the time, and I'm like, you have this huge following, you have massively successful, you know, Airbnb properties that are really cool and themed and all the things. I'm totally into the themed Airbnb gig. That's something I want to get into. And one of the questions I have for you is, have you ever been afraid that being 100% you is going to hold you back from being taken seriously? Because in the real estate world, people show up a certain way and they expect certain things. And I'm like, you just kind of do your own gig. Has that ever been a fear of yours?
Let me tell you, I'll give you three stories to answer your question. I remember I grew up very poor. So my family was the poor kids in a decent school. And I didn't realize I was poor till maybe third or fourth grade. But once I realized it, it was hard not to notice. And I remember being in junior high. And at the time, it was the 90s. And kids needed to wear Air Jordans to be cool. You just weren't cool without those at my school. And people were making fun of me for the shoes I wore and everything else, as kids do, which I think is natural. And I think to a certain development level, it helps to build character. But it can also be cruel. And I was at a yard sale with my parents and I saw a pair of Air Jordans and I thought, finally. And I got these $2 Air Jordans and I put them on the next day for school. And I remember going to school wearing these Air Jordans and thinking, I'm finally going to be accepted. I'm going to be like the other kids. Everything's going to be good. And I got to school and immediately they started making fun of me for having old Air Jordans that were ancient and whatever the new style was. And something clicked in my brain at that moment. And I said, you know what? This is just dumb. This is ridiculous. There's no point in this. I gain nothing from trying to make these people happy. They look at me the same way, regardless of whether I'm wearing the things that they're wearing or not. So that part of my brain just kind of shut off and it no longer developed any further. So I think that's when a piece of that happened. The next time I can really think of this would have been in my late 20s. I was involved in business, maybe early 30s, late 20s, here in the Fort Smith, Arkansas area. And I worked in technology consulting, internet marketing, and other things. And I had a kind of a coworker. We were working with a company. I even owned part of this company, but she had a strong disagreement with me about the way we should proceed with a website, a news website that we were doing. I said, no, look, I'm an internet marketing guy. I know how to do this. This is the direction we need to go. She felt otherwise. And people had warned me to be careful with her because she was dangerous, and I'd never really thought of it. I just consider everybody to be okay. And she went through the rumor mill through town, and I ended up kicked out of the Chamber of Commerce and removed from business groups I was a part of and lost tons of customers, and it nearly bankrupted my family. We were barely able to afford our mortgage. I mean, it was very, very difficult for several months following that to recover. And at that point, I was trying to fit into the normal business. I was trying to do the right things. And another thing in me just kind of, I guess, went away at that point, which was the desire to in any way fit in with business. I decided at that point, I'm just going to be me. If people want to do business with me, they can. If they don't need to. And so that part of me probably kind of came about at that point. And yeah, I don't know. I haven't I've tried to stay myself and be as straightforward as I possibly can be and transparent in everything business and everything personal that I conceivably can be. And I think that's the reason why I'm successful on TikTok. I think that's the reason why people like to see me. As I was talking to you, I just got out from underneath the house that I was working on trying to fix the foundation 20 minutes ago. I was covered in spider webs and my hair's still a little bit damp. I do that kind of work and I will do it on TikTok. I don't just sit next to a nice car and say, follow me and I'll teach you how to make money. If you follow me, I'll teach you how to work. I'll teach you how to do things efficiently. Money will follow, learning how to solve problems that people want solved and do things that other people don't want to do.
Hmm. Yeah, and you said you had some background in internet marketing. Have you noticed this is one of the things I believe about marketing anyways. Like the more you are yourself, the more you come out with like your wild, crazy things. Like people know about me that I'm a big Disney nerd. So like usually I have Disney stuff all around me or, I love bright, colorful things. And half the time my hair is bright pink. And the more I am me, not for the case of trying to get people to do something, but just for the case of this is the best me, this is how I'm going to be, and just be loud and proud about it, the more people want to stop the scroll and actually pay attention because it doesn't fit in the box of everything else. Like there is something to having that little bit of differentiation. People are scrolling TikTok and it's like 500 videos on how to do Airbnb and they come upon you and you're going to be different. And there is something to that, I think.
I have a saying, and it's professional is a euphemism for boring.
Mm.
And one of my biggest problems with doing marketing for other people for years was everybody would say, I want something professional. And I would say, well, you want something marketable, right? Yes, I want it marketable and I want it professional. And I would say, well, I think you need to choose one or the other because I'm not going to be able to market this and you keep it professional. That's not how it works. Like professional is oftentimes a euphemism for boring. And people want genuine. People want different. Nobody follows, like, if we decided, let's make a reality show, Julie, let's make a reality show about a family of ordinary Americans that just go to the same factory every day and the wife goes to the same office every day and they do the same job on the line all day around the same people and they come sit in the same chair tonight and watch the same news clips that they watch on the same time and then they eat the same foods that they ate the week before on the same nights. And we're going to make a reality TV show about that. Nobody's going to watch that. Like you're never going to get that even through a pitch meeting. Everybody knows people want to engage with reality when it's interesting, and people don't really want to engage in reality when it's boring. People want something different, and I think that's a desire in all of us. And I feel like at some point when we're children, we end up with those Nike Air Jordans that we decide, well, we're going to wear these so the other kids don't notice us. And we're going to sit in the class and not talk so the teacher doesn't notice us. And we're going to start fitting in so that nobody notices us and try to just become one of the group. And we lose a part of ourselves. And unfortunately, I don't know that, I feel like roughly half the people will never get that part of themselves back. They'll always live vicariously through others, thinking, I wish I could do this. I wish I could be that way. I wish I could be that open about something. I wish I could speak my mind. But they think it inside, while another part of their brain comes in and shuts that down and says, no, we have to stay as we are. We have to fit in.
Yeah. Well, and when you get into, some of these careers like marketing or real estate or something, I see so many real estate videos where it's like they look exactly the same. Like you have like this aerial shot and they come in and then they're in the suit and it's like, come join me on a tour of this luxurious house. And it's like it all has this same feel to it. And it is, that air of professionalism is there. And I think everyone, like not everyone, but a lot of people who go into those fields go, okay, so what I need to do to succeed needs to look exactly like theirs because theirs are getting a lot of views and it's what we would call professional. And so what I need to do is copy what they're doing. And one of the
Yes.
things I say when I talk about like marketing or sales or anything like that, which I only really do with like private clients here and there, I call it the Dr. Seuss rule. So the Dr. Seuss rule is this: Dr. Seuss knew the rules of English language to the point that he knew how to break them all and still have it be something that kids, adults, everyone understood. If you look at a Dr. Seuss book, you know that art style. You know the words in there are not actually words. It's just shit he made up. But it kind of follows things enough and it follows like patterns in our head enough that it goes, oh, I understand this. But it also kind of sets him completely apart from everything else we do. And so I think there is something to like understanding what works and what doesn't, but like being yourself within understanding patterns of what works. I don't know. I'm a big patterns girl, so I'm always like looking at like what patterns of things actually work, and then if I was to take that pattern but completely Julieize it, what would it look like for me? Or maybe we need to create a pattern that nobody's ever seen before, but understanding psychology we know would work. I don't know. My brain is always thinking that way, and I think and you tell me I could be wrong. Maybe your brain isn't even thinking that way. It's just be Shane, be me on video.
Uh, I I think actually this may be strange, but I think about the perceptions that other brains are creating around me. So your brain is creating a perception of me. Your brain is creating a perception of the things behind me all the time. It's absorbing information and it's deciding this is what's going on, this is what's important, this is what's not important, and trying to filter that. And I'm very aware of that happening. I'm very aware of the judgments that occur and of those things. Many people think I just don't see it, but quite the contrary. I'm extremely aware of it. And as a marketer or as an individual, I try to embrace that your brain is doing that. And I try to give it the things that it needs to work with so it can understand me more as I am. So I don't want you, I'll do it this way. Kids are very lazy with their brains. We all know that. They're lazy. They're young. They're not developed yet. And they kind of want to do things the least possible. When you tell them to clean up their room, they, kind of maybe, but they don't really clean the room. They don't really put all the energy into it in the same way. When a kid goes to make friends, a little kid, they say, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite sport? What's your favorite TV show? What's your favorite music? And they feel like they're getting to know somebody. But what they're doing is they're categorizing them. They're saying, oh, this person likes to do these kinds of things. This person likes to listen to this kind of music. And they start to apply all the qualities of anyone else they've known that plays those sports to that person. And they layer all these categories onto that person. And they feel like, okay, now I understand you. And they don't understand that person at all. What they understand is what their brain has created around this with all these check boxes, which are very fast and very easy. The adult equivalent of this, which is very common, is are you Republican or Democrat? At least if you're in the United States. I get that all the time. It's like, what? Like, that's just you trying to check a box. You don't even want to know who I am. You'll see that with religious views. You'll see that with what kind of work do you do? Are you professional? Are you blue collar? All these different classifications are literally your brain being too lazy to understand me as an individual. Putting the efforts into understanding what motivations I may have or what the reasonings why or the nuances behind something. You just want to check a box and think you understand it and then go on to your next task. And I understand it. Life is busy. We keep doing things. And as we become entertained and as our brain becomes focused on some type of entertainment of some sort, it'd rather go and be entertained than spend the time understanding. And I make it a point to try to make myself not fit into those boxes. So a person has to engage with me. And the more they try to fit me into a box, the more the boxes start to break down. And eventually they are forced to understand who I am as an individual, at least to some degree. And I don't just want it to be that for me, though. I want them to break free of that habit towards others because you can connect so much more deeply to people when you get them out of their little check boxes and you start to treat everyone as somebody that has value as they are for who they are.
What do you hope people know and understand about you and about people when they're engaging in your content?
you repeat that one more time, but reword it?
Okay. So they're watching your content, they're flipping through TikTok, and they're like, "Oh, I found Shane. It's great. It's freaking great. Look at all these cool videos," and they're consuming your content. What do you hope they like understand about you and about humans in general after they're done, or even during the experience?
So, one of the most important things that I think a person can learn from me is that it's totally okay to mess up. It's totally okay to make mistakes. I have made mistakes since we started talking. I started our first question by saying I'm going to make 3 points, and then I realized after I was done answering that I only made two. Those kinds of things happen constantly to all of us all the time. But from the time we're little, we go through like a public education system or private education system, and you're graded on making A's if you do everything right, and B's if you mess up, and C's if you mess up a little bit more. And when you go home and your parents yell at you, I can't believe you didn't make an A, you only made a C, you need to do better. It causes you to feel pain when you make mistakes. And it causes you to think mistakes are bad. I need to quit messing up. I need to quit. I'm just a screw up. I make mistakes. And you start to devalue people that make mistakes, including yourself. And you start to believe that other people that you see succeeding aren't making mistakes. When people see me do a house, they have this image of me sometimes as a guy who can just go underneath the house and level it and get all the floor perfect the first time. Like I messed up so many times today. I've leveled houses, I don't know, 20, 30 times. And I messed up today many, many times and had to restart and change the way we were doing it. And it didn't work. And that's normal. That is normal for your brain surgeon. That's normal for your heart surgeon. That's normal for your lawyer. That's normal for a judge. That's normal for everyone around you. But people have this perception, especially of professionals or successful people, that they're not making mistakes. And it's quite the contrary. I'm making mistakes as fast as I can, and I'm not hesitating to do something because I'm going to mess up. I just go into it knowing I'm going to mess up, and I'm going to keep fixing the mess ups until I get finished. And it's scary to think about this, but your surgeon's probably doing the same thing.
Yeah. What do you think helped you get to that point? Because people have a real fear of failure in general. Like a lot of people, like you said, when we grow up, it's like, you get red X's on your math test or on your spelling test, and you go home and your parents ask you how you did, and there's like cookies as a reward if you did it well, and there's so much around not messing up. How did you get your brain to go, it is okay if I make a mistake?
I probably am not diagnosed, but probably have obedience disorder. So I have an extreme problem with authorities. I have from the time that I was little, and they don't give me the value that they give normal folks. I remember sitting at like kindergarten was fun. Like we're going to color, we're going to do all this. But I remember first grade, my first teacher where I'm going to have to do things that aren't fun, I guess. And the teacher gets up to the front of class and starts talking. First, second day, I mean, we're very early on into school. And I start getting up and walking around from the desks. And at that point, kindergarten, whatever. But at this point, we have to sit in this. You need to go sit in your desk. No, I don't. Well, I'm telling you, go sit down right now. Why? Because I'm telling you to. Why does that matter? I'm an individual like you are. As far as I'm concerned, we were equals. There's no difference there. And so I think never respecting the authority of the teacher, never respecting my parents' authority on that. I'd come home and I would show up, well, and I'm capable, I'm intelligent. So if I needed to do work to learn something, I would. But I learn things very rapidly, so it doesn't take me as long as the other kids. I don't need to do the math problems 100 times to develop the skill. I could do it a few times. And once I'd done it enough, I quit and I wouldn't do the rest of my homework. And the teacher would come by and say, well, you need to do more of these. No, I don't. You're going to get an F. I don't care. You're going to get in trouble. I don't care. I just do not care. So that's a problem, obviously, for a school system. I graduated with a 1 GPA. I, made 34 on the ACT, but it's
Isn't that fascinating? It's like, okay, clearly you have information. Clearly you are smart because the ACT is
yeah, I'm
a
totally
34.
capable.
The
I
ACT
passed
is
several
a very good score. That's almost
yeah,
perfect.
I passed several AP tests, including like the AP Chem test, those things. And we were the first school age to have that, at least in my school. So we were the first ones to do that. I was always a part of the gifted and talented programs, but I also never once would stop. And if the teacher said, take notes, I would say no throughout. So I was always obediently like, I just, and in hindsight, I can't imagine having me as a student. It must have been awful for the teachers because I literally had no respect for that. But I think it kept me from feeling the pain of disappointment. I think it kept me from feeling the fear of mistakes. I wasn't afraid of mistakes because I didn't care if I got in trouble from an authority. I didn't care because I didn't have that much respect towards it, probably. That might be part of it. If I had to guess, I would say it's that.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for people who are listening who still do have that fear? They're still, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, they've gotten to, you get to understand a lot of things, but they still have that like underlying fear. Like, what if people publicly see me make a mistake? I think that's a big fear people have. Do you have any
So
advice for them?
there's a scene in Jurassic Park where the guy is at the restaurant. Everybody's seen the first Jurassic Park, I'm sure. And he's like trying to have this secret meeting with the dude, and he's talking about it in public, and he's like, shh, shh, quit talking. And then he's like, look, we're having a secret meeting. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Just kind of imagine that scene in your brain. Like, just go mess up a little bit today. Go make a mistake or two. Just do it. Like, mess up something bad and see how very little anyone cares. Um, and build upon that. Build upon that. Do something you don't know how to do. I tell people, get out of your comfort zone. Today, do something you do not know how to do. Perhaps you want to learn how to tie a knot like a sailor. Look up some videos and learn to tie a sailor knot. Perhaps you want to learn to sing and you've always thought it'd be cool to do opera in the shower. Well, get in the shower and do some opera. Whatever it is, do something that you aren't comfortable with and probably aren't good at. I'm a martial arts teacher and I have people come in and I tell people all the time, the hardest thing to do in learning martial arts is to get on the mats for the very first time. The hardest thing is to get out the very first time. Everybody struggles with that. Once they're out there, it doesn't matter if we've done it 10 years, 30 years, or 30 minutes. We all are making mistakes. We're all messing up. We're all friends. We're all trying to help each other to get better. It's just that initial, how is everybody going to treat me? How is it going to be? It's going to be weird. And after you've done it a few weeks, especially, it becomes so, so simple to keep doing it because you've gotten over that fear of failure. The same is true for remodeling houses or buying your first house. Your fears about it are way worse than the reality will be. Your brain can create so many things to be afraid of. When you think about buying your first house, you don't know anything about what you're doing. What if it's got a bad roof? What if the electrical's bad? What if it has asbestos? What if it has mold? What if it has this? And your brain can just stack up problems and problems. What if the neighbors are awful? What if we get broken into? What if it catches fire? It's infinite what ifs. But the reality is one thing. The real life as you live through that house is going to be one experience. And it's going to have some bad things and it's going to have some good things, but it's going to be one experience, which is a lot less to worry about than infinity. So when you find yourself worrying about the infinity, try to bring it down to just do it and find out what happens. It'll become your story. It'll become a part of the story within your mind forever. Even if it messes up, it's just going to become a better story. People like stories about things going wrong. You don't go read about Frodo and carrying the One Ring to Mordor to hear about how it was a simple stroll and the butterflies landed on his shoulder before he got there and he tossed it in without struggle and went home and everything was fine. That would not be a good story. It's all the troubles along the way that make our lives worth telling about.
Mm, I love that. And it's a good example with houses because I think any kind of property people get into, there is fear, especially involved in that first time, that first house, that first property they're getting into, especially, if they're getting in as an investment or something like that. What do you think like the biggest misconception people have about buying their first kind of investment property is?
I guess a big misconception I think a lot of people have, and you watch the home inspector videos and other things, is they picture they're going to get a house that's absolutely in great condition with no problems, and they're going to make money off of it. They're trying to do both of those
Yay!
things at the same time. I want to have no problems and I want to make money. Uh, you don't make money unless you're fixing problems, period. If you were watching an infomercial and Billy Mays was on Remember Billy Mays? And he's on there.
Oh, I
He's saying,
totally know.
"Hey, everybody,
I
I want you to
totally
know
know.
you have no issues right now. Everything is perfect in your life, and I want you to buy this thing." Nobody's going to buy that. Nobody cares. They want to buy the thing to fix the problem, and they focus on establishing the problems. The problems are where the money is made. And here's, I think, one of the most interesting things. A lot of people want to have money because they think it will fix their problems, because most of their problems are centered around not having enough money. Okay, I'm going to say that again. So people want to have money so they can fix all their problems because most of their problems are centered around money. And the reason why they have money problems is because they're trying to avoid problems all the time. When you're fixing problems, you can make a profit. When you look for a house that other people would say, "No, Shane, that house had a fire. Why would you buy that?" Or all the windows are from the 1800s. Why would you buy that house? Or the floor is wavy like this. Why would you buy a house like that? That's exactly the house I'm looking for, is the house that other people wouldn't buy because there's a problem. I'm getting it at a much cheaper price. When I fix the problem, I can rent it out for much more. I can refinance it for money or whatever real estate strategy you are doing to make money.
Hmm. So they buy the house. It's got all the problems. It's a
Right.
glorious house of lots of things to fix. And they don't know how to do all the fix. Do you have some advice on making smart decisions, doing enough of the work themselves that, they're able to make some profit without, getting in over their heads?
So, as a human, one of the things we do is we create adversaries between us and something we're trying to conquer, so to speak. And I see people turn their home into something they're trying to conquer and control when they start trying to take care of problems. Um, and if you and I wanted to fight, I have energy I have to put into fighting. You have energy we have to put into fighting. I may have more skill, but we're both having to put energy into it. When you get into a fight with an inanimate object, it doesn't have to put any energy into it. It just has to exist and it wins. Your house wins the combat 99 times out of 100 because it doesn't have to put energy into fighting against you. So I try to avoid getting confrontational with my house and fighting the things my house naturally has going for it. One of the worst things you can do is take a picture off Pinterest or something and say, "I want my living room to look like this," and try to make that happen in a house that's not that one. Because even if the window's 2 or 3 inches off to the right from where that photo is and everything else aligns, that 2 or 3 inches might be what ruins that look. It might make it impossible to achieve that. It's much worse when you put it into a kitchen where we have cabinets and countertops, and where does the stove go and where's the water? It becomes very quickly a $30,000 or a $40,000 kitchen because we're trying to fight a home that doesn't want to do the thing we're trying to make it do. So instead, approach it with an open mind. What will this house do easily? What can I do within this space naturally? Instead of trying to make it look like the house down the street, if you want the house down the street, buy the house down the street. What can you do to bring out the initial beauty that's in the house? What can you do to bring out the qualities that are there? This kind of goes back to the ridiculously you concepts. This house is ridiculously itself when I'm finished with it. I bring out the qualities the house naturally has. If it's piratey, it may be a pirate house when I'm done. If it's a vampire, it may be a vampire house when I'm done. I've got a house right now that's Tim Burton-y, and I'm going to do some kind of Tim Burton tribute house with it, and it's going to be great. And I'm not making the house look like the new model home that somebody's putting in that's built from scratch to look completely different, because that's foolish. It's never going to be there. That's me in seventh grade trying to wear the Nike Air Jordans because it's like everybody else. Quit with the trying to be like everybody else. Bring out the qualities within your own house. Let it be itself. Let it be amazing just the way it is.
I'm excited to see the Tim Burton house. I'm a big fan, so that's going to be cool for me to check out. Now, if you talk about having these houses that are themed, and tell me if I'm wrong, I understand that you have like some properties that are more standard looking and some that are more themed. Is that correct?
That's correct. So our Airbnbs, we tend to try to theme. I feel like we get a little bit better rental rates and make a little bit more money off of those.
That's
But
what I
even
was
our
going to
single
ask, if the theming, like going in and deciding on a theme and making the house be like, if it's got a piratey feel, we might as well go in and be piratey. Like, A, does it cost you any more to renovate it that way? And B, like, what's the increase in return for letting it be like a little bit more ridiculous that way?
That's a great question. So let's talk about how it actually saves me money to theme a house. So, quite the
Okay.
opposite of what most people would imagine. So, my pirate house, it was one of the first ones I did with the theme. I bought it and it had all these telephone poles that had been piled in the yard, which are, large, round, 40-foot long poles. And they're kind of difficult to get rid of. They're heavy, so we have to cut them up. And I started cutting it up so I could throw it in the back of my truck to haul it off. And I was very irritated pretty quickly because they're very hard to cut through if you've never done it. And I was like, this is going to take forever just to cut this up. And so I'm fighting an inanimate object. I'm in that battle that I don't want to be in already. But I look at the house and I stop and think. When I start to encounter resistance, I stop and I say, okay, what are some other ways that I could handle this? And I'm looking at it, and there's some hand railing missing on a area that's got some stairs, like 3 stairs. And I think, well, we need to do a handrail there. And I look at the telephone pole I just cut, and I think, if I turned that vertical, that would become a pretty good handrail. And it looks kind of like a dock post. And then I could wrap some rope around it and put another one there, and then I don't have to haul those two pieces off. Um, and so I go and do that. I dig a hole. I have to do a handrail there anyway. I wrap some rope around it, and now I've got a little handrail. And I start to look at everything and like, okay, well, let's make this more. And so I end up taking part of the telephone pole and turning it into like the mast of a ship. And a couple of things later, instead of having to haul all these off, they become elements of the pirate house. And then I decide I'm going to go with the ship theme the rest of the way through, because the more I thought about it, the more it's like, okay, this is kind of like a ship's cabin, or a captain's cabin would be on a boat, and this is kind of like the deck, and it just kind of happens. It's not necessarily a plan. It's as you get going on something, you get a strike of inspiration, and it saves you on the work. It saves you on the trouble. You go with what the house will naturally do, instead of fighting what the house currently is. We try to go with the flow a little bit.
Mm. And then as far as like rental rates and stuff like that, is it easier to rent out a house on Airbnb that's a little bit more themed? How much are the rates higher? Are they, do
I
you
can
have more spots? Like, tell me a little bit more about that piece, because I know like a lot of our listeners are very interested in this realm. Like, you go and stay in a cool like themed Airbnb, and I think all of us go, oh, this would be so cool to do.
I definitely get to get more bookings as a result of it being themed. If you're driving down I-40 and you're like, let's stop in Fort Smith and rest there for the night. Where are we going to stay? And you do a search, and you see the Star Lab spaceship, or you see a place that looks exactly like a hotel room. Which one do you pick?
Yeah, the
You pick the
spaceship.
one that
That's
gives
what
you a
I'm gonna
memory.
pick. Yeah.
So ultimately, when everything is said and done, the things that we remember are some of the most important things to us. Creating memories is creating some value for somebody. Many people don't understand their business, and they think Airbnb is about giving a person a room to stay in for the night. But Airbnb is giving somebody an opportunity to have an experience. They're in town for work, they're in town for fun, they're in town to be with relatives, whatever. They're having some kind of experience. And if I can give them something that's just a little bit more memorable, they're going to respond and accept that, and sometimes even offer a little bit more money to have that experience. So they have a memory. So they have something a little bit different. If you've stayed in enough hotel rooms, enough Airbnbs, they all become a blur. You can't remember which one was which. But when you leave my Star Lab, you're always going to remember being on the spaceship. You're always going to remember the time you stayed in the room with the coffin and my vampire house. You're going to remember those elements, and they're going to stick with you. 20 years from now, you'll still be able to remember it. Most of the other Airbnbs you stay in will be forgotten. That is what gets the premium, is the memory, the experience.
Well, and staying in somebody's memory. Like you would think that would help with referrals and everything else. Like if you're talking about like SEO and marketing and things like that, if you can be remembered and remembered for an amazing experience, you've won 90% of the battle of trying to sell whatever it is you're doing. I don't care if it's, real estate or it's services like coaching or whatever you're doing. If you can be top of the list and be memorable in a way that people are like, holy crap, that was one of the best experiences that I've had. I'm like, I don't think it's that much harder to go ahead and sell the thing and sell it for a price that makes sense because, like you said, you will remember that. I will remember staying in the alien house. We're like, my boyfriend and I are going to be doing this go out and digital nomad across the US for most of 2026. We're leaving in a couple of weeks here. And so we have been on the Airbnb app, like at length, picking like all of these different places to stay and experience because we don't want to stay in a hotel the whole time. We're not dragging an RV. We wanted to stay in lots of different like experiential places. And so those are things that have definitely stood out to us as like, what kind of experience can we have in this next part of our journey that's going to help us, have a beautiful time together. Because like you said, a hotel is a hotel. They all kind of are like, oh, that was cool. I stay in hotels a lot. Like I travel all the time. I'm always going and speaking different places or hosting a retreat or whatever. And I really only have like one memory of a hotel that was an actual hotel that I'm like, okay, that was an incredible space. That was an incredible hotel because it was like top floor to ceiling windows all around. We had this gigantic suite that we hosted everything in. Everything else, I'm like, I can't even remember what hotel room that was in reality. But like there's been some Airbnbs that have really stood out. And the more themed, the more character, the more interesting they are, it does lend to having a whole different experience instead of just sleeping somewhere. So I love that you're doing what you're doing with that. If you guys don't follow Shayne, we're going to give you all of that in a minute, but I would like to get into a very quick lightning round. Are you ready for a lightning round?
I was born ready.
You are born ready. Let's do it. Okay. What is your favorite theme you've ever used in an Airbnb? As if I had to ask you right now, even if you could change your mind in 2 seconds, right now, your favorite theme you've used in Airbnb.
I really like the hanging, swinging egg chair that we have in the Star Lab. It's clear acrylic flat. It's really cool. I found it for like $150. But it's an amazing chair, and it makes me happy.
Love that. Okay. One DIY repair every host should actually learn how to do themselves.
Patching drywall. You get a hole knocked into a wall at 10 a.m. and you need to have that fixed before guests arrive at 4 the same day. You don't always have time to get a drywall guy in or something like that. That's a pretty straightforward one, I think.
If you could have your own Airbnb anywhere in the world, where would you want to put your next one? You can do it anywhere in the world.
Oahu.
Oahu, lovely.
Yeah, I love Oahu.
I don't think, I keep saying I need to go to Hawaii. I've never been. That's one of the very few places that's like island-like that I haven't been yet. What's one business rule that you love breaking?
Wow, I like breaking all of them. Do I really have to pick just one?
One for today.
One?
I always say I have the right. I have the right to change my mind and change my opinion about something at any moment. So your favorite one right now.
Okay, my favorite rule I like to break is being professional. We kind of talked about that earlier, so I
Yeah.
feel redundant, but I do not like to be boring. I would rather be interesting than professional every day.
Cool. What do you wear when you want to feel the most like you and the most like I am in my power? I'm feeling freaking awesome. What do you wear?
Ooh, it depends on the day. Sometimes suits, sometimes I have a collection of disco shirts from the 70s that I love, and I'll put a leather jacket on over a disco shirt with the big pointy collar. That always feels really nice. Nothing is very empowering. I've gone to the beaches and stuff that are clothing optional, and I think that's great too. I have a variance from formal dress, pinstripes, to absolutely nothing. I feel powered, all the things in between.
Fantastic. Oh, something we didn't talk about, which again, this may be a rumor. We'll see. That you eat a little bit different. So tell me like your favorite meal right now, because it is my understanding that you do a little bit of a carnivore diet. Do you have a
Yeah,
stick of butter? You're my
this is
favorite right
butter.
now. Is it Kerrygold? Because that's my favorite.
This is
Yeah,
Kerrygold butter, and it's
yeah,
delicious.
yeah. It
It's
is
so
very
good.
good. Yeah. I
So
actually
I've
I've
been a
been
carnivore.
carnivore for about a year and now I do a little bit more keto. So, every once in a while I'll have a vegetable or something, but like right before I go to bed, I slice off a couple of bites of just Kerrygold butter. I think my boyfriend thinks I'm crazy, but additionally, it is so good. If y'all haven't tried it, it's really good for your like nervous system. It tastes delicious. It's very good.
It's yummy. I've been
Yeah.
carnivore for 2.5 years now. So I don't eat any plants. I have no fiber. Yes, I can poop, no problem.
Yeah.
There's many questions that follow, but aren't plants healthy? Not as healthy as you think. I feel great. I love it, and I recommend it to a lot of people. Just make sure to get plenty of fat. So butter or something like that is a key part of it.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Yeah, if you're confused about plants, go look up oxalates. They're not
Mm.
necessarily super good for you. So, go check that out. But I love that you're being yourself in that realm too. If y'all haven't done any, look into carnivore diet or keto. Carnivore is it's basically beef, butter, eggs. Sometimes some people do cheese. I actually do better without cheese. And I've been eating it a
Fish,
little bit lately. But yeah, it depends.
fish is
Every
definitely a
every
part of it.
person's a little bit different. But yeah, go check it out because I think that's the best I have ever felt in my life is when I'm kind of strict carnivore. So
And I have
yeah, yeah.
followers all the time that will talk to me about their carnivore journey, and a lot of them have started carnivore over the last year or two by following me.
Oh,
There's a
that's
gentleman
cool.
that's 63 years old and he's lost 130 pounds. He's off diabetes medication. He's off all of his blood pressure medications and all those things. And he's living his best life. He weighs the same as I do now. And then I have people, there's a lady that's followed me for a little over a year. She went carnivore a year ago and she's lost 70 pounds. She's off all the blood pressure medications. She's off the diabetes medication. She had PCOS and she was able to conceive a baby finally, which women with PCOS, you should definitely look at the carnivore diet. It can change your life, and it has for her too. Those are super, I love that. And I'm not a doctor here to give medical advice, but it's always amazing just by sharing the diet that I'm on. And when people do it and have success, it does make you feel good. And it's not something I accomplish, it's something they accomplish. But perhaps you're just the catalyst that started that happening.
Yeah, yeah. I'm down 100 pounds. I've kept it off for the last couple of years. And like my list of things that have gotten better, I had, edema, nerve pain and damage all over my body, like all kinds of joint issues, and I'm like, and now I can walk basically like 15 miles in a day. I don't even notice. And I used to be able to go maybe half a mile. That's
Mm.
about my limit before. Edema's gone, pain all gone. Like I'm super healthy, vital. Like I can do all the things now. So yeah, I'm a big proponent
Congratulations.
of the whole thing. Yeah, it's good stuff. So anytime I get somebody on who I'm like, we have this in common. You understand the world.
Yes.
Excited. So, y'all who are listening, go look it up because I'm telling you right now, like that is the best I have ever felt. And, it helped me lose a lot of stubborn weight, depression and anxiety. I used to have really bad depression and anxiety, and I'm like, man, like this is the happiest I've ever been, and just consistently for a long time. You'd be shocked, y'all who are listening. The amount of things what you eat affects your brain. It is kind of crazy, actually. I can tell right away if I've eaten something that my brain doesn't like. So it's not just about like body health, it's about brain health. Tea kind of has a lot of oxalates. So if I drink too much tea, I can feel my brain like not being as clear. So It's wild the things that can happen. But that was a long expansion after our lightning round where I'm usually wrapping up quick. But
It's okay. You can ask some more if you want.
I know. Okay, so what we need to do actually is tell everyone where to find you. If you want to follow Shane, I know all of those people out there who are looking at getting into Airbnbs and properties and, getting into investments and doing it in a way that's like fun and smart and like out of the box. You definitely want to follow him. Tell us where we can follow you.
So Shane, Shayne. My mother thought my name needed to be a little bit different. So Shayne is great pretty much everywhere. TikTok is probably my biggest following, but you can find me on Zuckerberg's platform, although we're fighting with him on some things right now, and Instagram and on the YouTube. You can find me whatever place you prefer.
So y'all are looking for Shane is Great, Shayne. Shane is Great. All the platforms. I follow you on TikTok. I think the boyfriend's more on the Zuckerberg platform for all of those things, but lots of great, great information. It's not just showcasing the cool different properties. He does do that, but it's a lot of like, here's what happened with our property today, and this is what happened. It seemed like I was watching one recently where like somebody took the vacuum, and it's like things people
Yeah,
abscond with after they stay in your Airbnbs, and I'm like, and what you do about it, and how to have like really emotionally intelligent ways to handle these communications you have when you have renters in and out and construction people and all of that. So I think it's great in on all of those realms.
it's a job that people don't understand, and I have a lot of people that come and follow me as tenants that don't even have an intention of becoming landlords or anything, because getting it from my perspective and seeing the day to day, and they think about, wow, maybe my landlord is doing a lot more than I thought. Maybe that is a job. So many people will be like, get a real job in my comments that don't know me. And it's like, as I said, I mean, I was under a house today. I take homes that you would run away from because they're not livable, and I make them livable, and I make them nice, and I make them places for people to live. And it is an incredible amount of work and an incredible amount of effort. And sometimes tenants don't take care of those things. Then we have to go through and fix all those problems afterwards. And all the money invested to fix all of those things. There's a lot of elements to the business. It's got its goods, it's got its bads, and I don't like to give you just the rose-colored glasses. We give it to you for real. This is how we make our money, but it is by facing problems.
Yeah. And then you do it in a fun, creative way, because we get to see the pirate house. We get to see, the house that's going to be the Tim Burton house or the alien house, or all of these very creative ways to do it. So it's like taking something that people would say, is kind of a cut and dry, more businessy like professional situation, and it's being able to bring in your beautiful creative brain in and problem solve things and make things come to life. So I think it's fantastic. Shane, thank you so much for showing us that success doesn't have to look just one way. We can express ourselves in many different beautiful and interesting ways. And I liked how at the beginning you talked about, showing up that way to invite people to a conversation, to, incite them to ask you more questions. Because when we can get to a place where we're actually having a real conversation, and I say this about politics or religion or business or whatever, if we can actually have a conversation with the other person where we see the other person as a human with their own filters and experiences and get to know them as a person, then we're making real connection. Then we're going to be able to, create the world that, I would want to live in, where we can see each other and love each other, even if we have disagreements, even if we don't see things through the same lens. If I can get to know you and understand you, and I can love me, then I can find ways to love other people as well, which is kind of a lot of why we do Ridiculously You. It's like loving all of those ridiculous parts of yourself, because the more you love you, the more you can share that with others. That's, people always say like hurt people hurt people. Well, people who love themselves have a great expansion for love for others too. And so that's part of why we find this to be a great work, to love yourself so that you can love others more. And it's not just so you can love others more. It's kind of that thing of whatever's, have you heard of that saying, like somebody was walking along, there was coffee in the cup and somebody bumped them and the coffee spilled out. Well, why did coffee spill out of the cup? Because that's what was in the cup. It's not because somebody pushed them, or it's the coffee spilled out of the cup because coffee was in the cup. If love is in my cup and that's what I carry around with me, that's what's going to spill out. And that's, my hope for all of you guys is to see and love the ridiculous parts of yourself, every little piece. So with that, thank you so much, Shayne, for joining me today. I so appreciate your time. You guys have got to follow him. His videos are fantastic. And I am so excited to have you be a part of our show. And if you guys love this, share, like, subscribe, share this with a friend, download it, do all of the things. And this has been Julie May, and I hope you have a ridiculous day.
Share the spark, take it higher, hit subscribe, bring a friend, let the wildness never end.